Burnout and Need for Speed are two game series that have always been reasonably intertwined in a lot of ways. They're both racing game series, they're both racing games that tend to focus on illegal street racing, or at least hinted to be illegal street racing. They're both published by EA. They both usually have some form of combat, although Burnout is definitely the one that emphasizes that more. And also, the developer of the Burnout series, Criterion, has also developed a couple of Need for Speed games. It's actually kind of funny because while I was recording footage for this video, one of the games that I'm going to talk about in this video is Burnout 3, and Burnout 3 actually has a Need for Speed Underground 2 demo in it, so that's just another way in which the series are very closely related. But anyway, like I mentioned, Criterion has developed a couple of Need for Speed games, and that is what we're going to be focusing on in this video. Criterion developed 3 Need for Speed games, and one of them, although mainly feeling like a Need for Speed game, definitely has a lot of aspects of Burnout in it. So before I get too far into the video, I just want to show you guys this picture. This picture is going to be of all of the games that are going to be mentioned at some point in this video. And so as you can see, there's just a lot of them. So this video is probably going to be kind of in-depth and longer, so just prepare for that because we're going to be talking about a lot of stuff in this video. Also, I just want to mention before we get too far into the video that I'm going to mainly be using Burnout 3 as my Burnout for comparison. Although there were more Burnout games that came out after it, the only one that I've actually played is Burnout Paradise. And Burnout Paradise, although it's a really good game and it's definitely a Burnout game, it's kind of different in a lot of ways also from the rest of the series. And to some extent, I think that even the original developers of it have kind of abandoned it because the game that's supposed to be the spiritual successor to the Burnout series, Dangerous Driving, is actually a lot more like Burnout 3 than Burnout Paradise, although supposedly Dangerous Driving 2 is supposed to be like Burnout Paradise. So anyway, what I'm getting at is that Burnout Paradise is not really going to be brought up much in this video because I just don't really feel like it's the best comparison for this video. But anyway, on to what I was going to say. So, like I mentioned, in addition to all of the Burnout games, Criterion has also developed 3 Need for Speed games. Those are Need for Speed Hot Pursuit, Need for Speed Most Wanted, and Need for Speed Rivals. Now, technically, I think that Need for Speed Rivals is actually considered one of the Ghost Games Need for Speed games because I think they were the primary developer on it or whatever, but anyway, Criterion is also credited on that one, but we're not going to be talking about that anyway. Really don't like that one, honestly, all that much either. But, so that leaves us with 2 more Need for Speed games, that is Need for Speed Hot Pursuit and Need for Speed Most Wanted. Need for Speed Most Wanted is also not what we're going to be talking about because, I don't know, Need for Speed Most Wanted doesn't particularly feel like a Need for Speed game, but it also doesn't really feel like a Burnout game. It's kind of an oddity in the series. Like, it's a racing game, it has licensed vehicles like Need for Speed does and everything, but there's just a lot of strangeness. Like, I went to replay a little bit of it the other day, and it was like, you start the game, and then you have the jack spots and everything, and within like 2 minutes of starting the game, I was already driving a Bugatti, so like, I don't know. Anyway, so that leaves us with one game, which is Need for Speed Hot Pursuit, and that is the one that I'm going to be talking about. Need for Speed Hot Pursuit was released in 2010 and is actually the 3rd game in the Hot Pursuit sub-series of Need for Speed games. I believe that it was sort of supposed to be a reboot of the Hot Pursuit sub-series, and it definitely shares a lot of the same stuff as the 2 Hot Pursuit games that came before it. So that's the side we're going to start on. First, I'm going to tell you guys about Need for Speed 3 Hot Pursuit and Need for Speed Hot Pursuit 2, which are the 2 Need for Speed Hot Pursuit games that came before this one, and then I'll tell you guys about Burnout 3 and why I think Hot Pursuit 2010 kind of mixes aspects of all 3 of those games to some extent. First, let's talk about Need for Speed 3 Hot Pursuit. This game was released in 1998 on whatever was available back then. I'm playing the PS1 version, and this game actually was really important for the Need for Speed series because of the focus on police chases and stuff. So far as I know, it wasn't actually the first Need for Speed game to include police chases, but it was kind of the first one, I think, that pushed it so much as a main gameplay mechanic. I'm playing the PS1 version of the game. However, the PC version in particular had a really important feature that would become really important in future Need for Speed Hot Pursuit games and also overall the Need for Speed series. On the PC version of this game, you could actually play as a police officer trying to stop the racers, which would, like I said, become a really important aspect of Need for Speed Hot Pursuit 2 and Hot Pursuit 2010, and also kind of almost important as a story element in other Need for Speed games in the future, like like Need for Speed Undercover and stuff. So this is the first game that allowed you to do that, although it didn't necessarily allow you to do that on every platform. Also, overall, Need for Speed 3 Hot Pursuit improved the pursuit system of the Need for Speed series compared to the other games, at least according to Wikipedia. I haven't played Need for Speed 1 or 2, I don't believe. So this game, so far as I know, is the first one where the police AI will actually use tactics like roadblocks and stuff to try to stop you, which again, really important for the Need for Speed series as it continued on. However, overall, there's really not a whole lot to say about Need for Speed 3 Hot Pursuit in comparison to the 2010 version of Hot Pursuit, because Need for Speed Hot Pursuit 2 took everything from the original Hot Pursuit and pretty much improved on all of it, so there isn't really anything that is in Need for Speed 3 Hot Pursuit and then not in Hot Pursuit 2 that reappeared in Need for Speed Hot Pursuit 2010, because Hot Pursuit 2 was pretty much a full upgrade of the original game. It didn't really take anything away. Need for Speed Hot Pursuit 2 came out in 2002 and pretty much improved on everything that was in Need for Speed 3 Hot Pursuit. It was particularly helpful that Need for Speed Hot Pursuit 2 was developed for the next generation of consoles, which were arguably a big step up from what Need for Speed 3 was developed for. In Hot Pursuit 2, the police played a much bigger role than they did in the original Hot Pursuit because they were upgraded in a lot of ways. There was a variety of police cars, they had more abilities than just the roadblock because they could call in spike strips, roadblocks, helicopters, and they had a boost feature. At least when you were playing as a police officer, you had a boost feature, which is actually kind of interesting because, as we'll talk about later on, that feature actually sort of went to the racers in Hot Pursuit 2010. But anyway, so overall, the concept between the racers and the police officers is still pretty much the same. The racers are trying to finish the race, and the police officers are trying to prevent them from doing so. And in order to do that, alongside calling in the things that I've already mentioned, the police officers have to try to pretty much ram and just slow down the racers, which is sort of where car combat comes into play in this game, which will be important to note later on because the Burnout series is like very focused on combat. So this game had combat, but it wasn't anywhere near Burnout 3's level of combat where cars would fly all over the place or anything. In this game, you would pretty much just get like rammed into a wall until you slow down, or you would have to ram racers into a wall until they slowed down. But overall, it's pretty straightforward, the gameplay of Hot Pursuit 2 and also Hot Pursuit 2010. But the important thing to note is that Hot Pursuit 2 really was where the police officer side of things really started to get a lot of personality because there was a variety of police cars you could use. It was no longer locked to a specific console or anything, being able to play as the police officers because you could play as them on, so far as I know, any release of the game. And overall, I think that's kind of an important theme you guys will see throughout this video, is that the police officer side of things is one of the main ways in which Need for Speed was different from Burnout, because Burnout, I mean, a couple of Burnout games did have police chases and stuff, but not a lot of them, whereas in Need for Speed Hot Pursuit series, the police are always a major factor. And now we are on to Hot Pursuit 2010. So, this game shares a lot of similarities with Need for Speed Hot Pursuit 2 and Need for Speed 3 Hot Pursuit. The overall concept of the game is pretty much the same as Hot Pursuit 2 in that you can play as either a racer or a police officer. And the goals on both sides are pretty much also the same. Racers try to finish the races and do time trials and stuff like that, and the police officers try to stop the racers with whatever they're doing. However, there are also like police officer time trials and stuff in this game. So let's start talking about differences between Hot Pursuit 2010 and Need for Speed Hot Pursuit 2. For one, the system of like abilities to use that the police officers had in Hot Pursuit 2 has been pretty much completely changed in Hot Pursuit 2010. In Hot Pursuit 2, you could pretty much call in helicopters, spike strips, and you could boost. And in Hot Pursuit 2, if you were playing as a racer, the police could call in a non-spike strip roadblock on you, but I don't believe that you could do that as a cop in Hot Pursuit 2. In Hot Pursuit 2010, the spike strip and the helicopter are still there, and so is the roadblock, but they all function pretty differently. So for one, you can call in a roadblock like by itself, and it won't be a spike strip roadblock, it'll just be a traditional roadblock. The helicopter is sort of similar, but instead of dropping the barrels like it did in Hot Pursuit 2, it'll actually just drop spike strips. The spike strips operate really differently in that when you trigger them, they actually are dropped from the back of your car, so they aren't set up ahead of you like they were in Hot Pursuit 2. And then the fourth ability that the police officers have, and also the racers have, but we'll talk about them in a minute, the police officers now have the ability to do an EMP, which is just a pulse, well, literally an electromagnetic pulse that sort of just acts as a wave that pushes the other car. However, it does actually do a pretty significant amount of damage too, depending on like what level you have it upgraded to. So anyway, that is the police side of abilities. Now, in a big difference from the previous Hot Pursuit games, racers also have abilities that they can use. Racers can also use spike strips and EMPs in pretty much the same exact way as the police can, but they also have a jammer which jams the police abilities and will also like close any spike strips that are on the road and like jam any EMPs that are about to get sent. And racers also have a turbo, which, like I said, is almost kind of like taking the turbo that the police cars had from Hot Pursuit 2 and giving it to the racers instead. And turbo is just like a really intense boost for your car. So overall though, it's pretty similar to Hot Pursuit 2 in general. You can tell that it's a game that takes place in the same series. The driving physics feel like a Need for Speed game. They don't feel particularly like a Burnout game, but as we're about to explore, there are also a lot of aspects of this game that pretty much are right out of a Burnout game. So now let's talk a little bit about Burnout 3 and how Need for Speed Hot Pursuit 2010 has numerous aspects that feel like they came straight from Burnout 3. There are a whole bunch of things in Hot Pursuit 2010 that feel like they're out of a Burnout game, and as you guys have been seeing footage already, you probably have already even noticed some of them. So let's start with one of the more obvious things, which is the car combat. Vehicular combat is one of the biggest aspects of the Burnout series overall, and the way it works in Hot Pursuit 2010 is really similar to how it works in Burnout 3. For one, the crashes, whenever you crash your car, look a lot like they do in Burnout 3 because you get this sort of like zoomed out camera thing, and I also think, I don't know if I'll actually be able to demonstrate it or not, but the music sort of fades out and it sounds like it's coming through a radio, and it does that in Burnout 3 and in Hot Pursuit 2010. So that's one of the main things right there, is that the way the crashes look really similar. It's pretty much almost the same format of camera take that you get whenever you get into a crash. Also, whenever you wreck somebody, it does pretty much the same thing. Now, as a police officer, you can't wreck any other police cars, so far as I know. As a racer, you can wreck police cars and you can wreck other racers, but we're going to talk about wrecking other racers in a second because that's another really important aspect on its own. Whenever you're playing as a police officer and you wreck a racer, or you're playing as a racer and you wreck a police officer, you get a really similar angle again as to how it looks in Burnout 3 when you wreck another racer, and it works pretty much the same way as just ramming the other person. And it's another interesting thing to note also that this is another area where Hot Pursuit 2010 differs from Hot Pursuit 2, in that Hot Pursuit 2, you still had to hit racers with your police car when you were playing as a police officer, but you didn't actually like disable their cars most of the times. You would just kind of wedge them into a corner and stop them from being able to get out of it. Whereas in Hot Pursuit 2010, you have to wreck racers to actually stop them pretty much. So far as I know, you might be able to like stop them without wrecking them, but it's pretty much encouraged, and it's also the easiest way to stop racers. Another thing to note is that whenever you wreck a racer as a police officer, or you wreck a police officer as a racer, you get a full boost bar again. Pretty much always. I don't know if it happens every time, but usually whenever you do that, your boost bar fills up, which boost in itself is another thing taken from the Burnout series. Need for Speed 3 Hot Pursuit didn't have boost, and Need for Speed Hot Pursuit 2 didn't have boost, with the exception of the like police officer turbo thing that you could use. So boost is yet another thing that is carried over from Burnout into this game. But also, alongside that, whenever you wreck somebody who is on the opposite side of the law as you are, you get a full boost meter, just like when you perform a takedown in a Burnout game. Speaking of takedowns are a thing you can do in Hot Pursuit 2010, and they are literally called takedowns, and I wanted to kind of save that for later in the video to bring this up, because this is probably by far the thing that makes it most clear that there are definitely aspects of Burnout in Hot Pursuit 2010. So takedowns takedowns in Hot Pursuit 2010, though, are not particularly encouraged and also pretty hard to pull off. In the Burnout series, takedowns are really easy. You just ram your opponent into a guardrail or whatever, and they go flying, and it's a takedown. You get a full boost meter and points and everything. In Hot Pursuit 2010, the game kind of actively discourages you from doing it. If I can find the footage, there's even a pause menu tip that tells you, like, yeah, running into other racers is fun, but it won't actually help you that much. So the game sort of tells you, like, you can do it, but it's not really gonna help, which is sort of true. So for one, in order to do a takedown on another racer, so far as I can tell, you pretty much need to be in a Hot Pursuit race, because in a normal race, you can't really do it. I tried and it just didn't work, because in normal races you also don't have any of your abilities, which is another thing. All of the racer abilities also work on other racers, so you can EMP other racers and you can spike strip other racers. The jammer doesn't do anything, I don't think, but you can also use those offensive abilities against other racers. You can do a takedown on another racer in a number of ways. You can actually get a takedown from an EMP or a spike strip, just like if you wrecked a police officer with one. However, it'll say like spike strip takedown, EMP takedown, and you can actually still do just a normal slamming takedown, but like I said, it's actually really a pain to do because the game doesn't like encourage you to do it, so other racers don't usually attempt to smash into you or anything, so you kind of have to actively hunt racers down to do it. It really isn't much to your benefit, but overall the fact is, whenever you do it, it does almost the same thing as when you're in a Burnout game. It gives you the takedown camera, it literally even says like takedown, and it's just really interesting that that's in a Need for Speed game. You also don't particularly get rewarded for it. I don't believe you get any speed points, and your boost meter doesn't fill up when you do it. So again, it's like, it's there, it's part of Burnout, but it's not really useful at all, and also kind of hard to do because you have to put like a lot of focus into actually pulling one off. But anyway, so there's that. Also, back on the boost thing, another thing that I'm just remembering right now is that this game lets you acquire boost in a very similar manner to the Burnout series. Now, Need for Speed 3 Hot Pursuit and Hot Pursuit 2 didn't actually have boost, so there wasn't really a way to acquire boost anyway in those games, but the way it works in this game is pretty similar, especially on the racer side of things. As a racer, if you drift, go into oncoming traffic, near misses, all the usual stuff like that earns you boost, but as a police officer it's a little different because your boost meter fills automatically, but I think you still get extra boost whenever you drift, but you won't get extra boost for doing things like driving in oncoming traffic. So as a police officer, you don't actually get rewarded for like the dangerous driving aspects of it. And then the final thing that comes to mind in Hot Pursuit 2010 that is really similar to the Burnout series, especially Burnout 3, is how the menu looks. The map actually looks really similar. It's set up in a really similar way to Burnout 3, where you get this like overhead satellite view map, and the various types of events are all marked on there, and they all have their own like different icons, because you have icons for racing and icons for police officer. In Burnout 3 you had icons for racing and icons for the crash events. In my game they're all grayed out on Hot Pursuit 2010 because I finished the game, but you guys get what I mean anyway. So yeah, the menus there are also really similar between each other. Anyway, overall, so that's why I think that Hot Pursuit 2010 is the closest we've ever gotten to a Burnout Need for Speed crossover. I know that some people might argue that Most Wanted is more like Burnout Need for Speed crossover, or that even Rivals is more like a Burnout Need for Speed crossover, but I think Hot Pursuit is really the most similar because there's a lot of shared aspects that are still there. Like I said, Rivals is almost like Hot Pursuit but just on PS4. And then Most Wanted doesn't really feel like a Need for Speed game either, or a Burnout game, so that's kind of its own thing. So that's why I think Hot Pursuit 2010 is the most like that. So anyway, that's pretty much all I have to say, so thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in other videos. Make sure to subscribe if you want to see more stuff from me, and bye-bye.